Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Hope everyone's doing okay with these waves of severe winter storms. Half of our panel of experts is making her debut on Nightlight. Kristi Bass is a co-host on the RKEOX podcast. You can hear them and learn more about their adventures by going to rkeox.com. She is doing research on the Mayan pyramids in Central America. The other half of our panel is making his third appearance on Nightlight. Jared Murphy was a guest discussing his book, It's Not Aliens, Worse, It Is Us, and his explorations of the Grand Canyon and the fabled Kincaide's Cave. He hasn't been a guest with us for a while because he was dead. Now, Jared isn't. At least that's what we think so. So, we'll learn a little bit more about that over the next couple hours. Okay, welcome to Nightlight, Kristi and Zombie Boy. How you doing?
He's alive, so
okay, that's a good start.
He's the undead, so that's good.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
What an intro. I don't even know how you could beat that, like once he was dead, but now he's not.
Yeah, that
was good.
I work hard on introductions like that.
So
I'm glad it gave you some good material.
It was epic.
Okay, well, we don't want an event like that happening again. So, hopefully that's the last time I have to go over that. But what tell us a little bit about this diversion you had, and we can kind of get into that for a little bit, and what you're doing in Belize and all other places in Central America. That's really interesting too. So many of our listeners and now viewers really enjoy these ancient history topics, and so give us a little background on this near-death experience, what you learned from it.
Sure. For everyone who doesn't know, yes, about a year and a half ago, I had a widowmaker heart attack on Memorial Day, and that was after coming back from Belize after almost a 3-week expedition. So had this happened 7 miles in the jungle, I would not be here, or at least I'd be here in spirit. But I made it. After 8 days in a coma and 17 days in ICU, I was dead for 45 minutes. I died 7 times in 45 minutes. Well, more so quickly. I died 7 times. I had a cardiac arrest, and then my heart started, and then I died again, and then they had to get me. They basically double paddled me a lot, Mark. So I had burn marks in the shape of the paddle, and
Hmm.
they did it at me twice, and that was not fun. But I wasn't there for that because I immediately ended up in a coma. So what can I tell you? I was in a coma. And then I got out. And then I went back to Belize because the momentum was there from writing the book that you mentioned. And I'd been on your show a few times with you and Barbara, and
Hmm.
I had been doing a lot of other field work. There it is. It's not aliens. Of course, it's
And,
us, but
and
there
even
was
got
supposed
the autographed version too from, I just looked at the date, February 2nd, 21. So that was
wow.
almost 4 years, just over 4 years from
Yeah,
the time you
yeah.
autographed it.
So I spent the last year and a half recovering and getting back into climbing and biohacking and the book. There, let's see, there it is.
Oh,
It's a little blurred out, but
yeah,
hey, oh, there it is.
trying to get used to. It's kind of showing up right there. Okay, so
Chri- Kristi, for everyone that doesn't know, but Kristi, Mark was one of the first people. Mark's, for anyone who obviously fans know, but Mark knows everybody. And I had been on, I'd been with Michael Tellinger in not too long before this. I'd spent a month before the book came out. I was in South Africa doing field research for a month, looking at stone circles. There's like 10 million of them. But Mark was one of the first people to give me a call and ask to be on with Barbara. And I have known Mark almost from the beginning of all this. So Mark has, I don't know, Kristi, he's done a lot for us too, hasn't he?
He has. He's been super busy.
Yeah,
it's been a fun
it's been good,
collaboration.
Mark.
It has been a really fun,
Yeah,
and I have so much gratitude for it as well. Mark, thank you.
Oh,
yeah.
you're welcome.
I mean, it led. Look, I died and I got going again, and I met I had a bunch of amazing people come together. Tom Elmore, who does a lot of our LiDAR and works with the GeoNav group that does a lot of ground penetrating radar and GPS, all sorts of stuff. And Tom introduced us, and it wasn't very long before I somehow managed to luckily convince Chrissy to be in the jungle with me with a bunch of other strangers. How do you feel about that, Christy?
Just gonna go with it. It just felt right at the time. It sounds crazy to some people. I think my family
Yeah.
thought I was nuts when I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go uh, dig up some Mayan ruins in the jungle of Belize." You know what? Honestly, I don't think they were real surprised at that point. I'm old enough. I think I've done enough that they were probably like, "Good luck. We hope you don't die."
But she didn't, and here we
I
are
didn't.
now. You didn't,
Yeah, we
and we're.
don't want
Oh,
that
go ahead.
either.
No, and not only did she like it enough to go on that expedition, but ultimately has become one of the founders of ArchaeoX, which was a continuation really from It's Not Aliens. When I wrote that book, Mark, it was all along the idea that there's something about our ancient past that doesn't line up with our histories, and it has to do with consciousness. It's not just our history, it's all the things that we think are either paranormal or supernatural, or we've come up with all these alternative systems to religion or religion itself. All of it seems to relate to human abilities. We think of superhumans and we always think, oh, this is an anomaly, this is special, this is interesting, but the past isn't a mystery. When we look at all the facts, it looks like we have this massive, mysterious, collective human experience that predates our conscious knowledge, but it's there. And I thought I'd write this book. I would get out in the field, keep doing research, keep doing self exploration from breathing to what have you. And all this is leading up to, it turned out to be there was at least one other person out there doing all of this, and that's Christy. And she said yes to going to Belize, but then she said yes to doing uh, pretty much moving all those balls. Every subject matter that I just mentioned is involved in ArchaeoX. And I don't know, how else would you describe ArchaeoX, Christy?
Complex.
Okay.
Complex. there are a lot of moving parts to RKOX, and I didn't even fully recognize all of the parts until I was in Belize, and we had spent what 2 months, Jared, on the phone before that, and it was
Yeah.
I was in Belize before I actually understood what I was doing there. I didn't really know. I just knew we were going to go uncover some ruins. That was about it. So then I got there and the work started, and I realized what we were doing and how amazing it is. And Jared has somehow brought together this world of humanitarian work and educational, STEM programs, and just this research and search and rescue of our origins, and kind of swirled it, and then you throw in consciousness and yoga and breath work and all that stuff, and you just swirl it in all together, and he's created some magical company that's kind of a mixture of all of the things above. And so it's really just kind of figuring out how all of those pieces connect, really, and then sharing it, planting seeds with the educational programs, the STEM programs that we're putting out, the videos with LiDAR, using LiDAR. So I think he started doing great work. He's brought great people onto the team, and it's expanded into just this, I don't know, just this evolution of being of its own.
Kristi, do you come from like a business background, or have you always had an interest in prehistory, and this is a way to bring together several types of discipline into one project?
That's a really good question, Mark.
That's why I'm
So
highly paid by Barbara.
so I actually I was a stay-at-home mom for about a decade, and then I went back to school to finish my degree. I got a business degree and a master's degree. A business degree was my bachelor's, and then I got a master's in education, and I taught for a while. Um, and I hated history. I hated it growing up. I hated it. It was the worst subject ever. Every history teacher I had was a coach, and didn't they were just there to teach what the book said, and that just wasn't in fact the truth, which we're figuring out now. But um and so then I went into education, and then I went into business and found myself in the LiDAR and imagery industry, which is how I got connected with these guys. So business and education is my background. And then here I am doing this.
Well, a slight gloss over of the history part of it. I mean, or the tech part of it. You definitely know a lot about aerial LiDAR, and ironically, we were using LiDAR, but it was ground LiDAR in Belize for this trip.
It
And
was. And also, I think too, around 2015, between 2013, 2015, I kind of started waking up. Once I started waking up, I started reading and digging a little bit more into the rabbit holes of consciousness and quantum physics, and the law of attraction and manifestation, and all the good amazing things that we can do, and powers that we forgot about that we can unlock. So I started digging into all of those things too, and so that really, it's a good blend. RKOX, I feel like, and what we have going on is a good blend of just trying to figure out how, where we come from, and how our consciousness it operates inside of this physical universe, this 3D universe that we exist in.
Kristi, when you're presenting history in that way with quantum physics, and is that what the high school coaches who taught history were lacking in presenting the material as just too dry. That okay, well, in 1782, George Washington did this.
It was very much like
It's
that.
just because the way you're presenting it, it sounds like
Epically. Yes. It was
it,
very, here's the timeline of history, and there was no overlap between history and science. They were two separate subjects. There was no overlap growing up between history and science. Physics it has a lot to do with where we come from, and how we got here. And you can't have one without the other. You can't have science without history and history without science. They could just go together. And so I think that that's kind of what we're doing here, is just trying to figure out how to blend the two, and make sense of how science and history and consciousness go together, how all of the pieces of the puzzle fit.
okay. Yeah. As Barbara and I have more and more authors as guests, and especially during lockdown, a lot of the people who were approaching us, re- I couldn't debut their book at the Tri County Barnes and Noble. They were contacting us since they couldn't get the word out, and it seems like so many of the shows we did, authors were writing more about the overlap of history and religion.
Mm.
That seemed, just go to all the archives, and you can see that there was probably a spike in those themed shows. That's what people, uh, so many authors were. That was what was on their minds at that time, and I don't know. I think what you're saying is, probably has moved to the forefront of overlapping subjects, which is making the reading more interesting,
Mm.
may have a larger appeal than just, uh, okay, this happened and this happened and this, then
Right.
maybe we can interpret, these events as the culmination of several events. It's not really that interesting of a read, but what
No,
you're discussing makes it.
it's not. Mark, you've got timelines, and you've got like historical facts, and that's what history was in high school. It was just memorizing historical facts so
Yeah.
that you could take a test and pass it. It was, what year did this war happen? And then you take the test and you put you A, B, C, or D, and so it's just a bunch of memorizing facts that really wasn't understanding the origins of humanity or where we come from. And now we're making all of these discoveries that are proving that our history is false. It's predating what we've learned, what we've been taught. And so what do you do with that? And which is what you're talking about, this overlap in history and religion. Well, now we've got history that's predating religion. So if you've got history that's predating religion, what do you do with that? I mean, how do you it's a societal disrupt is what it is. And so a lot of people just choose to ignore it, I think, because it's like, what happens if we look too deep into this? What am I going to have to change the way I think, feel, believe, perceive? Yes, probably. And that's scary for people.
So, Jared, to take one of Christie's concepts a little further is, looking at there was like a science before history. I think you said something like close to that. But Jared, since you've been on these trips, are you finding that the pyramids have a science to them, like measurements on sides? It's like one corner of the pyramid, you know, aligned with, uh, Orion's belt, and things like that.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways to answer this. It's a really important and good question because, I was a kid, I grew up on In Search of and Nova and all the shows where you're like,
Hmm.
oh man, this thing's lined up with Orion. It's like that's interesting, but it's slightly off, but it's like sort of like Orion if we're talking about some of the pyramids. And then so depending on where you're learning about things, you're like, oh, there's sacred geometry. And so the automatically, like what Christy just said about religion, is that when we call something sacred, it takes on this whole other woo-woo, not bad. It just takes on this mystical, we don't need to have any answers, or we can just believe it thing. And so if you're building pyramids and all these other structures on energetic actual ley lines, all these power lines, all these power pathways that are part of the earth, and you're building pyramids like the Great Pyramid, which is 1/60th off of 1 second of perfectly north by south by south. And it's not four-sided, it's eight-sided. There are black and white photos. They were flying over it the first time they noticed it was during the wars, and they photographed, and it's crazy because when you see the pyramids, it's concaved. It's actually eight-sided, not four-sided. And so what is the point if you're not a pre-dynastic history energy frequency expert culture that also has more engineering not only into the soil itself, and we've talked about that. It's in the book, Terra Preta.
Hmm.
It's all over the earth. So you have a society that was once here pre Younger Dryas or pre biblical flood, and maybe even post. Maybe they survived, but prior to that, you have a society that's building pyramids and structures on ley lines, and they're building on sacred geometry. But it's not that it's sacred; it's that there's a logic and a frequency and an energy to it that helps with powering the buildings, maybe, and powering the energy system through the soils that they're engineering. And yeah, they're filtering heavy metals and carbon dioxide, but they seem to be aware that there were natural energetic systems that we biologically could connect to that then worked with these pyramidal systems. But then dynastically, we got Mayans and Aztecs and Olmecs and Toltecs, and we have Egyptians who, like the Greeks and like other cultures, came and found structures all over the earth, and they just started using them. So now we have pyramids and like the stuff that Christy and I are working on in Belize. I don't know, what was that? What, Christy, the complex is over 300 something acres where we're working right now.
Whatever. I know it's like an 8 pyramid complex. It's large. It's big. I
Yeah.
know it was hot and it was a lot of work climbing up and down. I'm not sure how many acres it was, but I feel like I climbed 300 acres up and 300 acres down. Definitely
And
every
she did
day.
it with a and she did it with a backpack. And she did it with water. And she did it with a knife or two, maybe three.
There were cats in the trees. I had to protect myself.
Okay. No, she's underwhelming you. They weren't cats. They were like panther, jaguar size. Like I could they had paws so big that the mud I could put my hand in it, and the paw print was bigger than my hand, and I'm
Yeah.
almost 6'2". So I'm not a tiny guy, but the thing is that these things could have easily ran off with her as a snack.
It was just a snack, and then everybody was giving me a hard time, calling me Laura Croft because I was carrying a knife. I'm like, there are giant cats larger, twice my size, that could just drag me off into the woods. I'm carrying a knife.
To be fair, I think everyone and the cats were afraid of her, so it's really just her versus everyone in the jungle. But
That diabolical energy.
um, I was not saying you were looking for the fight, but you were really welcoming it.
I was
Or 6,000.
prepared. We'll say I was prepared.
Yeah. So I think the pyramids we were working on, the structure, it's like Mark, I think, when we initially found it, they said it was the oldest structure in Belize. It was around 2,000 years. By the time I had gone back, this is before I died, I went back with my friend and partner our partner Tom Elmore, and we went back and we were trying to prep, which was going to be the expedition that Kristi went on. So this is before that. So we went back to the same village and we're looking at all the ruins, and they're like, listen, we've had other government and people through it, and they think they're even now they're starting ever so slightly to admit that maybe the Mayan culture is as old. It's always been out of Africa, Egypt first, but now they're starting to say, well, these Mayan ruins might be 5,000 years old. And then they're like, well, we're not exactly sure, but they're not these megalithic structures that are intentionally built on these ley lines. It's a culture that came obviously post Younger Dryas. They're building pyramids. So there's a bunch of these small brick pyramids. These aren't like 700,000 ton megalithic structures. They're just, okay, when I say small, some of those blocks that they were building with, like at Lubantoon, where the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull was found, there was easily, I don't know, 400 to 800 pound blocks, almost 1,000 pounds, and they were not, they were pretty well hewn, but that was the lower layers. But they weren't built on ley lines. They weren't built by somebody who was thinking of energy grids or systems. They're definitely just pyramids. So now what? Now we have these sacred geometries that you're talking about, like the size that like the size of the actual uh take the Great Pyramid, right? But I hesitate. I hate stopping at some of the numbers that you wanted to go to because, like for instance, it's like somebody like you said it looked like like there's pyramid systems that look like Orion's belt. Well, the problem with like the Great Pyramid is that of all the pyramids up there, there's three left. And originally, the oldest documents in modern times, and we're talking late 1400s, 1500s, when they were there, they saw seven pyramids. There were seven pyramids, not three. There were seven in just that exact area. So we think of the big three, and then we think, oh, they made it look like this one star system. But it's like, well, why was there seven? And at the bent pyramid, the step pyramid, it's like it's bent and it seems to be acoustic. And the center of it is megalithic in construction. The exterior is generally Egyptian. So there's all these numbers, and we can get caught up in the sacredness of the numbers, not then dialing it back even further to go, look, they built on these ley lines and they built on this entire earthly energetic system for a reason. So what did the buildings power? How did that affect us? How did that affect other organic life? All those questions. So I'm redirecting your question, and Kristi should take it from here because I'm over woo-wooing it maybe in
I don't
sci-fi.
think you're over wooing it. I think even if it's not built on, even if these pyramids that we've uncovered aren't built on ley lines, it's clear and obvious by the feeling that you get when you climb to the top of the highest one and you look out after it's been cleared, and you can see the horizon, you can see for miles. And so you just get this feeling that it was maybe I don't know, the higher ups is all I could say of the civilization. It was the higher ups that set up high, and they overlooked because you could just see out for miles. And so it just felt more like almost like a sanctuary type place to
Yeah.
me, more spiritual and sacred.
Okay, I've never um been to Belize, but you know when the pyramids were built on a plane. Is
No,
that
so they were built on top of the mountains.
oh
So you actually climb the mountain to get to the pyramid. So the structure was on top of the pyramid was on top of the mountain. So we would have
okay?
to hike up to get there.
So when you're at the on top of the pyramid, you're seeing the horizon, or pretty far away,
Oh,
20 miles or so.
definitely. Wouldn't you say, Jared? Just miles and miles and miles. And it was different. These ruins were structured differently than from what we've uncovered so far. So there's a couple of ruins that are nearby, Nimli Putin and Lubentun, and they both had like established areas, like ball courts and these established areas. And we haven't uncovered those yet. And so it just, the feel and look is a little bit different of the already established ruins that are in Belize. And so there's a little bit of curiosity behind, well, like, what was this? What was it? What were these? There are tombs on one of the mounds. We know that much, but we haven't uncovered any ball courts or anything like that, which are at Lubentun and Nimli Putin. So it's kind of like still a mystery. We're still trying to figure out what they are. What was the point? What were they used for? Who was it?
Or since you're in the mountains, there really wouldn't be like canals, but are you seeing that there was a far more extensive culture or ceremonial complex than most people realize? You haven't
You want,
discovered the it,
yeah,
yeah,
take
so
that
it
with you,
sounds
Kristi.
like the um ball ball court, like there's like a early version of basketball. It seemed, and I think my parents brought back some like brochures, of oh, what was that place? Uh, it was like a tennis court kind of thing, and there are like basketball kind of hoops on the side. I forget what that place, Chichen Itza. But were you seeing all kinds of um, the pyramids, and Kristi mentioned tombs. Was there all kinds of ceremonial stuff in this area that would sustain a population?
Yeah, I'm assuming, Mark, are you asking me or Kristi?
Um, Either one.
You could take it. All I can say is I know that looking out for all of those miles, one of the things that is really fun about this field is for as many miles as you could look out and see into the jungle, under the canopy are ruins. So they're just everywhere, and there's
It's
temples, and
it's
and
that
it's and
dense.
it's that dense. Yes, it's that dense. And there are actually canals.
Oh, okay.
So there are actually canals that run through the jungle, and you're able to actually, there's some places that we have been actually discussing taking a tour group to, where we would take a more advanced group, but it is a couple of miles to a temple through the jungle, and it would be a canal boat ride up the river. Um,
Sounds
so
neat.
yeah, so that's something we're looking forward to. We're still putting those numbers together. I think that'll be our fourth upcoming trip. We'll see.
That's true. We have a Mark, just so you know, yeah, we're looking at end of May, taking a group. We'll have that posted on rqx.com, but we are looking at bringing a group back for not so much a tour as more of an expedition that they can join in on and go look at some of the RQX project work and also see some of the southern Belizean Mayan ruins. And you want to know how extensive? I mean, Belize is so right next to Guatemala. It's the only English-speaking country in Central America, but it's really Belize is, you could start on the Atlantic and you could go through Guatemala and quickly be on the Pacific. So you are smack dab at the narrowest end of the Mayan Empire where you could almost go up a canal, or they made canals, but they had rivers that are there that you could get you could make it quite a ways from one ocean to another in a land where they're quickly establishing that the Mayan Empire was tens of millions of people. It wasn't hundreds of thousands. It wasn't 3 to 9 million in North and South and Central America, as I was told when I was a kid. Now LiDAR after LiDAR scan is showing city after city after city, and from where we're standing, those pyramid mounds, you're looking out, and even the farmers locally, it's like, well, that's a pyramid, that's a Mayan ruin, that's a Mayan ruin. And so we're talking a land that's filled with nothing but amazing Mayan ruins that Kristi and I are going to bring people back to at the end of May, and you'll be able to join us on an expedition too. So that could be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do since you just mentioned the May tour, how do people register for it?
I want nothing to do with it. Kristi knows everything.
So the information is on the website. We're working on the registration page right now. But the information's on the website, and there's more details to come in the next 4 days. We're
Yeah,
just we're wrapping up the last few bits of information, and then we'll put it on the website, and it'll be a click through easy process to sign up and register for that. But it'll be Mayan ruins. There's a cave tour, which is a really
Yeah.
amazing. It's a couple of mile hike, which we were told when we started the hike was going to be 45 minutes, but Belizeans hike time versus our hike time, it varies. So their 45 minutes is our 2.5 hours. So it took us 2.5 hours to get to the cave, which was absolutely amazing. It walking in felt just like, I don't know. I've never, no judgment, anybody, don't judge me. I haven't watched Harry Potter, but it sounds like it's magical. And so it felt like maybe stepping into a Harry Potter movie. I don't know. It just had these
Or
cathedral ceilings and floors, and it was otherworldly. So that'll be another thing that we'll do on the tour in Belize is the cave tour for sure.
yeah, the caves is, and when she says cave, it's actually a cave system. It's not just one cathedral room. It's one after. It's like a hollowed out mountain. Think
Yes.
more Lord of the Rings than it is magical.
That's what I was going for, not Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Dang it. I hate when I mess
It's
things up like that. I'm
not
not into
really
that one
because
either. So
oh man, we got to fix that. But
yeah, I
in the
know.
meantime, but seriously, Lord of the Rings, think walking down in the dungeon with the giant dragon in the first one. However, Harry Potter, when it comes to magical, I think you nailed it. It's like I should have thought of that because visually looks like Lord of the Rings and there's magic, but the fact is that they're both the aura, the space. This is not a cave tour, folks, like other people have done. This has only been something recently discovered in less than 30 years, and it's like a hollowed out mountain at the top of a mountain, and it's truly not something that everyone's seen. This is
No,
pretty unique.
typical cave tours. When you go on typical cave tours, you're following like a rope system through, so you're not
Yeah,
bumping
Right.
and touching things you shouldn't be. They don't even have this established yet in this cave. So there's no following the ropes or following the lines. It's very much like you're going to have to sign a waiver, before you do this, because you have to be careful with where you step and where you go, and it's dark and it's not roped off. It's
Has it been mapped?
no,
inside the cave.
no,
No.
no. It's been extensively explored by the people who found it, but as far as scanning or anything else, no one's done anything. This is, and again, it's not one room. It's like you walk into think any cathedral in any city, if you've ever been to a cathedral, but then you go through a doorway, you go through an opening,
Opening.
and then there's
Yeah.
yeah, and then there's the one that there was one in particular that looked like a giant amphitheater. Just think of
He
an amphitheater outside.
he said it was 80-foot ceilings on the inside. So I mean,
Wow.
you're looking up so high that you can't, in the dark with your headlight, you can't see the ceiling.
Yeah,
You
no,
can't even see the top where it stops. It's just
no,
enormous. The
no.
size, it's almost incomprehensible. It's amazing.
Are there
absolutely.
stalagmites and stalactites in there, columns?
Yes. And so
Cool.
you had to be super careful with where you stepped and where you touched, because if you touch them, they die. So there's an environmental aspect to the hike and the tour through the cave. You don't want to touch. There's certain places that you can touch and step, and there's certain places that you can't. You have to be very careful to preserve the cave.
Yeah.
You, is there any evidence that uh, the caves were used for ritual purposes?
Yeah, there was now, ironically, no one had found the caves until the mid 90s. When they got into it, there was a they found a Mayan base. It was a I guess it was a vase, but it was probably about 2 feet tall. I mean, it was, I don't think you could get your arms around it. It was, and then it came to this little fluted top. It almost looked like something you see in a Roman. It's not Roman, it's Mayan, but it had this fluted top, and it's in the museum at the site now. But it was the one artifact that they found for sure. Have they extensively explored all the cave? Not entirely. There's some sediment, there's some water, but the cave system, we went through the inside of the, I guess the one part of the hollowed out mountain. There was a earthquake, so when you go through it, you come out another side, another mouth that has over 100, I think he said 120, what was it, Kristi, 120, 140 feet?
It was 140 feet, I think.
Yeah, and so you come out this epic exit, but that exit was really an entrance to another section of the cave system, which they
Actually,
said,
it
yes,
wasn't. It wasn't another entrance. It was just the extension of that where you exit. It was just the extension of. It was a continuation of what caved in.
yeah, and it
Cool.
collapsed in a earthquake, but then what our guides had said was that if we had more time, if we had other equipment, we could go into another section, but the middle section had collapsed, so we crawled up and around to the other side to where we had started. But then, you know, I don't we don't actually know how far it goes, and I don't know how much they've actually looked at in all of it. It's been it has not been fully documented or explored or anything. So one of the things that the whole point of this trip, one of it is that could we bring it more of a tour, more into an expeditionary feel, where we could take people to things that are new and unseen, and something still safe that the people could have their own experience with, and also what have we done with RQX? What are we working on? And we could bring to people to something that wasn't just a a little bit of, not just a normal tour. It would be
It's
more,
definitely more of an expedition, less of a tour. It's definitely
yeah.
gonna. It wouldn't be for. I mean, you got to be able to walk and hike. It's not all the paths are not clear, and there's not roped off systems. So this is something for, it's more of for people who want to actually do expeditions, and go and learn about these things, and less of a, I think, touristy type of.
Now, if it's confusing though, we are doing some of the touristy stuff. I mean, we're going to where the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull is found. We are going to have some really great dinners. There's going to be a great, your stay and where we're going to be are really wonderful places. So there's definitely, you don't have to go to the cave system. That doesn't have to be your thing. You do, however, you know, have to want to participate with a lot of cool adventurous, I don't know, everything from the jungle and the cave stuff to the crystal skull and the we're not going to an established ruin site. I mean, when it comes to where RQX is working, this is an active site that is really only frequented by people doing work like we are. So it's not all established 4 foot wide chipped paths where you can walk to a
Mm,
ruin. These are, so there's definitely the expeditionary side of it, but there is also, you're more than capable of coming and staying in the hotel and also enjoying the dinners.
absolutely. So I don't want to scare anybody or freak anybody out, but so
Easy.
we're looking at Peru this summer and Egypt in the fall, and those will be more um, what you just described. This one is an actual basically showing what ArchaeoX has done. Like if you're interested in looking at an active site of ruins being uncovered, this is the place to go. That's what we're doing. And then you get to do other cool things like explore caves and deep sea fish.
Jungle.
And we even talked about doing some sonar from the boat, so we'll see.
Yeah, well, there's some jungle stuff too. I mean, actual some bushman hikes into some areas where we've done some ArchaeoX at the beginning. We went. This is before I died, 2 weeks before I died. Well, whatever. We were in the jungle for 3 weeks, and while we were there, we had priorly had done satellite imaging. The satellite imaging was to look for unknown Mayan ruin sites in an area where the only people who had been through it were British, because Belize is a British colony. And this was an area that had only been explored by British mappers approximately, I don't know, 120 years ago. And they had done that survey work for the British Empire, but no one had been through it. And the owner was like, I'm pretty sure I have Mayan ruins. And we're like, okay, well, then ArchaeoX got formulated. Tom Elmore and the GeoNav group, we got on board, and then we started looking for Mayan ruins with satellite imaging, and we were able to nail it. I mean, first day out, we found an archaeological theft site where they had probably stolen. The owner was able to track and find that it was likely that they had stolen almost $2.5 or $3 million worth of artifacts. And so day one, we formulated the company. I formulated everything. We got looking. We went into the field. And on our first 5 mile hike, we managed to track into an Indiana Jones size tented cook site, multiple tents, massive archaeological digging had been done by thieves that had been going after what looked like Olmec or Toltec older than Mayan artifacts in mitten mounds, which are basically shell mounds. And they had been working, and there we were. We were able to establish that, but we identified that first expedition was about 26 target sites that we thought were probably Mayan ruins. So it would be fun, long story, to get everybody out where, yeah, there's some actual expeditionary work where we can take you on a launch and drop us in the woods with some bushmen and still go out and find, retrace and go exploring again for some of these target sites that very much, for what we were able to identify, look like unknown Mayan ruin sites, which is a matter of not short hike into the jungle, but at the same time, we'd like you to all come.
It sounds fascinating. And you're talking about food. What is the food like?
Oof.
Yeah. Kristi, what's the food like?
Gosh, it depends. So at Capaltree, which is a resort, the food is amazing. We'll have different tiered packages. But in Punta Gorda, there is a chef there named Gomer that we met who cooks everything from, if you're a carnivore, that's cool. If you're vegan, also cool. He's flexible. But you walk in his kitchen and he can basically whip up, do you remember? I
Yeah.
ate I don't think there was a drop left on my plate. And
No.
it was amazing. So the food is going to be, the food is amazing, all fresh,
Well,
vegan options.
tell them about, one of the places is the farm to table. And it's one of the places that we're looking
Capaltree.
at. Yeah, that we're looking at for everyone to stay at. And that would be pretty spectacular, because you're looking at a 13,000 acre farm to table jungle / again Mayan ruined, really great cabana. I don't know. They also make the country's rum called Kapali rum, and they make also their own espresso and coffee. They make their own dark chocolate and chocolates. And I mean, everything is farm to table. So we're not just talking the main course, we're talking the dessert, we're talking coffee for breakfast and the eggs. Everything is coming from their own making. And it's indescribable how good the food is. I mean, that in itself is a culinary tour or expedition.
They actually do. They do culinary tours at Capaltree. They take you through the farm and you can actually do a tour of the 13,000 acre farm where you can
Yeah,
see where your food is coming from if you want to do that.
that's true. And then there's places where we're going. There's an area. There's this wonderful gentleman and his family that make wood-fired pizza right on the ocean, just right on the
Oh,
ocean. And it's just it's going to be the simple stuff. It's going to be complex. We're going to have do you want to hike out to the cave for, a few miles into the mountains? Or do you want to stick with the Mitchell Hedges Crystal Skull and some established sites and a little easier? There's going to be something for everyone, but this isn't going to be just a yawn through it expedition. This it could be as challenging as you can maybe handle, and or as fit as you are. It could be something that yeah, I can do it, but you won't say it wasn't challenging. And then at the same time, there's the mental aspect of it and the consciousness side of it, because we're not just doing the tour for the sake of seeing the ruins. I mean, uh, Kristi is also certified in breath work, and I think we're absolutely planning for the people that want to do the yoga and I don't know, what do you got, Kristi?
Breath work, meditation, yoga options every morning. I don't think
Yeah,
there's any better ways to start your day. So that'll be available every morning for anybody
yeah,
that wants to participate. Definitely. I
yeah.
went to Peru in 2000 in 2023 and got certified to facilitate breath work. So that was a profound uh, change, I guess, in my life. And I decided to go once I learned how to do my first experience with breath work was in Ecuador, actually at an ayahuasca retreat. And it was almost as profound as the plant medicine was. And I ended up a month later in Peru studying breath work. So I went there, did that, and now I get to do that on the side. So that's fun too.
okay.
Yeah.
What does the breath work help people to achieve?
So breath work. So when your breath moves in and out of your bodies, or in and out of your body, if you think of it sort of like James Nestor sort of describes it like a train station in your body. Like the train pulls up and dumps off, empties out clean cells, puts in the clean oxygen and gets rid of the trash from your cells and moves
Hmm.
on. And so that's kind of how the breath works in your body. It exchanges the good for the bad in your cells. So it helps with inflammation, illness. It's actually, for me, meditation's always been hard because my brain just doesn't stop. So with breath work, I'm able to sort of slow my brain down a little bit more and focus on my breath. That has huge health benefits. Most disease or all disease, some would say, is caused by inflammation in your body. Breath work decreases the inflammation in your body, just like earthing does. Putting your bare feet on the planet decreases inflammation within 15 minutes in your body. Studies show it. So breath work kind of works the same. It helps express stuck trauma. We have a lot of trauma that we store in our cells, ancestral trauma, childhood trauma, and breath work helps expel some of that trauma in your body. So you're able to kind of work through stuck emotions and express things that you might not normally express otherwise. So it's sort of another form of meditation. It's just I would consider it maybe an active form of meditation.
Yeah, it's not, and for those that don't want to participate, don't, but if you do, I think part of connecting with these ancient mysterious sites, there's a vibe. When Christy said earlier about you get up on top of some of these pyramid structures, and there's a lot going on, I think, in our own, I don't know, we all have our own downloads, our own connections with our own, whatever we think maybe our past is or our future is. And when you're doing, I think, the breath work and when you're doing the meditative work, it's not just about, oh, I want to existentially maybe connect or uh, remove just a simple stress or something that's I don't know, maybe not tangible. I think when you're doing real breath work and when you're doing some actual connective work like this in places like this, it something clicks. that wouldn't otherwise click if you were in a yoga studio or if you were doing breath work in a room somewhere. Something clicks. And so we're hoping to have that experience with whoever and however many people want to join us on those mornings. But
Yeah, and what we're talking about this. You do cover in your book Wim Hof and controlling his vagus nerve, running.
yeah, Stig
Uh,
Severinsen. Yeah.
yeah, when the thing keeps blurring. Okay, there we go. While it's 20 below zero, jogging through the landscape on
Yeah.
like a 26 mile an hour or a mile marathon. I'm sure so many people today can relate to that, but
Late to that.
you do cover these types of how to manage bodily functions in extreme environments. So
Yeah, part of it, Stig Severinsen is in there with Wim Hof. They're both doing the point of the breathing wasn't, yeah, they can control their autonomic nervous system, their inflammatory response, their what makes you depressed or happy, or your heating and your cooling, and what's going on with your individual organs. And he's reactivating, and Wim says it himself. He said, demystify it. He was a little more explicit about how to demystify it, but he said these are things that we could all do, and we forgot how to do it. And Stieg does the same kind of breath work, and all of which have been on a million documentaries and everything. But when I'm bringing it to everyone's attention, is that, hey, if we just table these mysteries individually, oh, it's cool that we can do that. Nobody ever looks at it as a biological system, as part of an interconnected frequency energy aware advanced human race that was here using ley lines and using energy grids that are natural to the planet or to the solar system, to the galaxy, to connect their minds, not just their third eye, to some esoteric plane in another dimension, but to actually maybe connect with someone else on Mars or somewhere else around the planet, or or collective consciously. Like there was all these things that I was trying to bring together in that book. But when you're doing the work, we have these little fires, we have these little firings. So we kind of like jump into some of these old abilities, and maybe it's only for a moment, but there's something that happens when groups come together and when people do the same thing, or when people talk for a long time together. Um, Brain entrainments and these autonomic systems that aren't autonomic, we actually can control them. So we do these breath works and we do these things together. And I'm not going to lie, I think, Kristi, I think we both really want to, not only do we love doing it, but the chance to do it with new people and to do it collectively is, I don't know, probably going to be a little mind blowing, don't you think, Kristi?
Well, yeah, I think that's the exciting part of this new age. I feel like we're kind of transitioning into, where people are sort of waking up to new realities and new perspectives and things that we, may not have considered before. And just like you said, Jared, like we just forgot, we have all of these abilities, and we don't know how to unlock them because we're so disconnected and we're so distracted by the media and politics and life and all of the things that we have going on. We don't think about connecting to ourselves, to the earth, to our breath. And our breath is the life in us. Like the first thing we do when we enter is breathe, and the last thing we do when we exit is exhale. It's it's part of our life force, and so to not acknowledge that is ludicrous to me. I think that
You're right.
there's definitely a connection to the breath and to our minds, bodies, souls, to our complete alignment, and to probably any and every spiritual area on this planet. Like I think that if you're connected to yourself and you can sit with yourself and be with yourself in these sacred places, then you can feel and experience things that, you know, others that are not as connected might not experience. And the thought of taking a group down to experience this together collectively is sort of kind of the goal, I think, moving into this, you know, 3D to 5D, whatever we want to call it, transition on the earth that's happening right now. I think that one of the ways that we do that is to connect as a human race. And that happens through conversation. It happens through breath work and meditation. It happens through just connecting energetically with one another. And then we raise the consciousness of the planet. And then who knows what happens after that.
And it's not just there, Mark. I mean, we're looking at not to confuse everyone, but on our expedition page, we are going to go to Peru and Egypt also. So this doesn't work. We're asking you, or an adventure. We're not trying to invite you to just go to Belize. We are hoping to bring this exact experience, including the meditation and the breath work, and these adventures to Peru and to Egypt. We'll have information for those too.
All the sacred, we want to sit and in a circle and breathe with everybody in all the places.
Yeah, and RQX is, I mean, yes, RQX has business in Peru, and Kristi and I are going there specifically, not just to have everyone join us for what could be a really collectively incredible experience to do this together, but to also do RQX business, which includes doing megalithic and or ancient history work, educational and humanitarian work, and then have this really great adventure with everybody.
Yeah, so there is some issues at one of the sites in Peru that we're looking at and trying to see if we can help solve that problem. I don't know if we can reveal that site or not, but there is a site that we're looking at, just checking out and seeing if there's any way that we can help improve maintenance. We'll put it that way.
Oh, I'll add that it is a well-known site, but there's so many in Peru, so that doesn't narrow it down. But it's really big, and then of course it's megalithic, which also doesn't narrow it down. But it's a great thing for RQX because it allows us to really get into the science. But the science of not only it's that search and rescue of our history. It's not just that it's big and old. It's that there's clearly technology involved with this site. That, granted, for everyone dynastically, it's a known Mayan Incans thing, and that's great. And we're not trying to say it isn't. It's just we're going to try to solve a complex structural issue that will also help us do some experiments to figure out some other science. So we're excited to bring that to everybody on RQX and with RQX.
Like I was saying earlier, so many of the authors who have been guests with Barbara and me over, I don't know, 12 years or more. They've written a lot about history. Hoping to get one kind of regular guest has been busy with her tours. Hopefully, actually get a date finalized. But so many listeners have really enjoyed those shows, and the authors are not letting us forget our past. And Kristi mentioned something along those lines.
Yeah.
How are the locals reacting when you're using the LiDAR, finding okay, we never knew there was a smaller pyramid over here, and okay, you proved that it was there, and there's something else mile over this way. How are they responding to what your group is doing, to show how extensive their culture was.
Well, on one hand, they're very proud of it. On the other hand, some people are not happy about it. I don't know. Um, we actually got letters about it. Um, uh, Actually, I don't know if now is a good time. Kristi, you could actually, I think one of those letters is worth looking for. Would you want to just go check? I mean, it would take a minute for her to jump off screen, but do you want to go look for that letter?
Which
The one, that one that was, they were not thrilled with us doing LiDAR, but I don't know if you just look for it quick. It's just, you mind if she jumps off screen for a minute, Mark?
Sure, that's fine.
I have no idea. Great. But it's kind of funny. If she finds it, great. If she doesn't, I'm sure she'll be back in a minute.
I don't know how
Is
to.
that, it's just
Uh,
at the bottom, just mute at the bottom of the screen. It's on the main screen.
there we go.
So I'm only gonna laugh. I'm not laugh. It's so hard to go over this because that's a great question, Mark, because they're the villagers, where do I start with this? So when you come from anywhere to some of these countries, they have a different, how do, I want to say this for those of you who have not been to, Belize is not a wealthy country. So the villagers that live in the areas where these ruins are, they don't, um, they don't make a lot of money. They tend to be people who are subsistence farmers. So they literally grow their own food. And if they didn't have their own food, they would basically be completely screwed. So shortly after we left our expedition, Mark, by the way, there were massive fires that went through southern Belize. Many of them are subsistence farmers. So they literally grow by hand an acre or three. And then if they make that food, it's enough for them to eat. And they usually have 2 to 3 crops a year. That's it. And then there's no winter, there's a rainy season. And at that point, it's too rainy. You shouldn't make any food or anything. You shouldn't try to grow food. So when the fires came through, it cost them. It killed one of our guide's horses. It killed chickens and pigs, and basically, this is everything they need to eat and live. So how this ties in is that what's tragic about it is that, and some of the villages are so small, they got no money when the government put up money for some of them. But some of these villages, like where we're at, they're so small. When they see you come in with technology, and they're wondering, what did you do with that technology in order to um, like, how are you making money? So there's some distrust. So what I was hoping is that Kristi could find this letter. It's okay. I'll summarize it anyway, so that people don't have to wait, because I know she's really diligent and she'll look for it no matter what. But what's cool about it is that we're bringing awareness to the village, and from the work that we did the last time we were down there, we're clearing all these ruins, and it allowed them to bring more tourists to it, which isn't a site that's open. But because we cleared more, they were able to come. They were able to make more money because they were able to guide more people, which is really great for the village. On the other hand, and then we were able to, RQXs who paid for them to have the work to help clear the ruins, which they need in order to make more money. But then we're doing the LiDAR work and we're doing the scanning work. We're doing stuff where it's like, well, how are they making money? And so there was a village meeting. We had multiple village meetings with the mayor and with the councils. And so that's the point of the humanitarian. We brought clean water filters that were worth 10 million gallons over 10 years. And we brought one to the school system in the village. We brought one to the community center. They didn't have anything like that. But when they see the technology, like the scanning, you would think, hey, cool, we figured out more stuff. And instead, ironically, we had a couple villagers we didn't know, because they were talking in Mayan, but they were talking to the mayor, and they were just upset that we were there doing any type of work that they thought that we were. Well, it's difficult. They thought we were maybe making money on the scanning, and they weren't missing any of it. So we're on one hand, we're bringing humanitarian aid and we're paying the village, and we're trying to do what we can for them. On the other hand, they're just, some of them are very distrustful, and they're extremely, and I stress this enough, they're extremely impoverished. So they're always some, not everyone, but some people look at it and they say, hey, they're obviously getting something more out of this and we're not getting anything out of it. So it's a little sad. There's challenges with that. You didn't happen to find
But
that letter, did you?
I didn't.
No.
I don't know
Okay.
where it's at. And even if I found it, I was thinking I'm not really sure it's got some stamps on it. I
Yeah.
don't know that we would have shared that anyways. But they weren't really happy, but they thought there was a miscommunication. I'm sure you explained that. There was a
Yeah.
miscommunication between types of LiDAR that we did. Um,
Oh, that I didn't cover that. What I covered
that's that.
was
Oh, I'm sorry.
I covered the villagers that were upset because there were villagers that were yelling at Alfredo that we were making money on the LiDAR scanning that they were not seeing. That
Right.
there was a whole they
But
thought we were like,
in the letter, what one of their concerns, one of Nisha's concerns was that we had flown LiDAR over the area and we hadn't flown LiDAR. We just walked a scanner through. We didn't fly over anything. We weren't selling it because when you fly LiDAR, you can sell that for quite a bit more than just scanning small areas.
yeah,
Aerial LiDAR you can sell for quite a bit more. And so I think that they were they were confused on what type of LiDAR we were doing, which is why they were so upset. But we were walking LiDAR. It was not aerial.
yeah, but yeah. So Mark, they were not as happy as you would have thought if we had found a bunch of other roads.
Yeah. And
but
so imagine being me, just initiated into the program here. And I get down to Belize in the village and I walk into the first meeting and everybody's yelling at each other in Mayan. And I'm just like, I don't know what I just walked into, but it doesn't feel good. I don't know what's happening here.
No, it was
but
it was
It was an experience for sure.
yeah, I can see where like outsiders would be viewed with suspicion, but your point of view is also you're almost like one of them wanting to understand what their ancestors
Mhm.
were doing and their thought processes, admiring their cultural achievements. So,
It's a tough situation because I
uh,
feel like there's not only they don't not only have we been all taught that our history is not accurate, but their their system of education is lagging way behind ours already. So we don't even know what they're being taught about their own history, much less world history. So doing what we're doing and being able to travel around the globe and experiencing these different places and make these educational videos, we're able to share that education with different cultures all over the world, in ways that we wouldn't be able to if it weren't for our brilliant founder here.
oh wow. Okay. I'll take that. I
it,
want that from this recording.
it,
So
and since uh, you know Tom Elmore is helping with some of the LiDAR. Yeah, I told Dennis, I have you two on doing the pre-record tonight. He's like, oh yeah, Tom. Yeah, Tom works at the Hill as well. So okay, so he's getting Tom's getting a lot of experience working with you in Central America and
yeah.
at America's Stonehenge, and you've lectured up there as well. So plug what Tom is doing. Those might be what his photos on your website, but it's really interesting what the new technology is revealing about these remote places that have been uh, consumed by a jungle.
Would I don't know, Kristi, me or you?
Yeah, so Tom, first of all, is amazing and brilliant in a million ways. But so what was one of the coolest things about that experience was when I asked him, because Tom by trade is a landscape architect. So he has a master's in landscape architect. That's what he does for his day job. And he got interested in LiDAR, and he ended up purchasing this LiDAR scanner and just said to himself, basically, I'm just going to see where it takes me. I'm going to get it. I'm interested in it. And I just want to, I'll follow it wherever it takes me. And so it took him to Belize. And he got to do different things in the States first. And then he ended up in Belize with Jared at the first trip without me, and then the second with me. And it was, what was really actually interesting about the scanner itself was when we would get close to the ruins and try to start scanning, it wouldn't work. He would have to step away. It was like there was some sort of electromagnetic barrier or something around the ruins, and his scanner wouldn't start. So he would have to walk, several feet away from any ruins to even get his scanner to start working. But it was just really cool. It's so interesting how ArchaeoX has come together as a group, and all of the stories that we have to explain how it happened. And then we have Tom Elmore, who says, I was just interested in LiDAR, so I bought this scanner. I wanted to see where it takes me. And then it takes him to the jungles of Belize, and he's scanning Mayan ruins. I asked him at one point, did you ever see yourself here with the scanner? And he said, absolutely not.
That's true. But he had a gateway because, like you said, he started America's Stonehenge with Dennis Stone,
Right?
and 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 he did some other sites on the East Coast. There are so many dolmen. There are so many weird little, like the Uptons. There's so many chambers and things all over the East Coast that are not every indigenous tribe said we didn't build it. I mean, they all know they have oral traditions going back thousands of years, and then we have all this carbon dating. It's 7,000, 9,000 plus years old, and you have every oral tradition of you know, every single indigenous tribe out there. We did not build that, and they would take credit if it was theirs, but it wasn't theirs. So we clearly have Neolithic tribes or peoples or communities living somewhere between this 5,000 and 12,000 year spot, post Younger Dryas, biblical flood, whatever, that are clearly living up here, down there. And he scanned the hell out of it, including Civil War and American Revolutionary battle sites, grave sites. He's done the Newport Tower, which was probably built in the 1500s, and it's a bit of mystery around that, whether it was a Templars or whatever. But he scanned some cool stuff, but never Belize and never Peru and or Egypt. But it's on our to-do list for ArchaeoX.
Oh, and yeah, you might also want to put on your to-do list to watch Barbara's Secrets of the Stones, and gives you a good idea of what was going on with the stone walls and chambers of the Hudson Valley and
Oh,
New England, and maybe it could be expanded upon by having Tom bring all of his gadgets over there, and she could redo it. So I'd recommend her for your next podcast.
There she
all right.
is.
It,
Well, of
she,
course we can't
There
she's
get
she
on
is.
mute. She's on mute.
Not going to redo it. Patrick Cook and I did Secrets of the Stones in 2011, and it was presented at the Megalithomania conference during that time. But we had thousands of pictures of the chambers that are in New England and the stone walls, and asked a lot of questions, none of which were answered. But the video's on my website, and you can check it out there. It's on YouTube. It's all over the place. But it was an adventure. We never went anywhere that we got to on time because we were always finding a stone wall or a stone chamber.
It's impossible on the East Coast. If once we started looking, I was out
Oh
there. We
yeah.
did it. We teased Kristi with a trip that we wanted her on, and we went to so many stone walls and so many chambers, and I don't think I would have been able to get out of one site with her without dragging her.
No,
But
It was so hard to leave each spot. It was just like,
oh yeah.
oh my gosh, every time.
Yeah, Dennis Stone he used the film for a long time in his
great.
visitor center.
Oh, that's great. Dennis is wonderful. I've been wanting, that's one of our guests that's going to come up on ArchaeoX. We don't have a guest list yet, but I don't know if you guys post that stuff, but um, we're definitely going to do more with Dennis. And I've lectured out at Stonehenge twice. My third year was going to be the year I died for 45 minutes. And I was going to do my third lecture out there. It was great because we had 13 people in person show up from all over the East Coast. And then we had so many people online join. And then I really wanted to do it again. And I just, I just couldn't put it together in time. But with everything we're doing with ArchaeoX, so one of these days we should all go back out to America's Stonehenge. Kristi has to see it in person because it's really indescribable until you were
Oh
there.
yeah.
It's 126 acres, and the site is just filled with all sorts of solstice and equinox markings, along with massive megalithic stones that are really mysterious. But I don't know, Barbara, you've seen all that other stuff out there too, like where we were going to all the chambers. It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
There used to be over 800 of them in New England. It's down to 200. And I think we were in probably 150 of them when we did the documentary. And we had a German Shepherd that would love to go into the woods with us looking for chambers and stuff. I pulled more ticks off of my husband and that dog than I ever want to remember. It was amazing, but it was a great time. I mean, I thoroughly loved it. But we never got an answer. I mean, I've been in all of them. They were not burial chambers. They were not
No.
cold storage. They have the same feeling in them that crop circles have in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really phenomenal. No bugs at
No.
all.
None. Yeah, it's weird. They're very clean. Some of the ones we went to that Tom wanted Wayne and I to see, and Michael, they're kept off the grid. I don't know if you've been to some. I know some like the locals will keep secret,
Oh
but
yeah.
they're used locally for meditation and yoga. And I'm like, I don't see a lot of yoga being done in here, but I can see you getting into it and sitting and meditating. And a lot of people think there's some acoustic properties to the chambers, and
Oh
some
yeah,
of them are
it's
big enough for
amazing.
you. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah,
No, they have a feeling in them. There's
yeah,
definitely there it's almost as though a cone of silence has been dropped over it.
yeah,
Oh,
Even if
yeah.
even if it's alongside a road, you don't hear the traffic.
yeah. Actually, they are, Chrissy. They're actually beehive. They're cone shaped. So that's exactly what they look like. And sometimes the entrances are on the front, so you got the cone, and that's all that's sticking out of the ground. And then when you go to get in this definitely bigger than human square, you have to go down and you can step down into it usually, but these things are beehive shaped and sometimes they're only one person size. The upton chambers are big enough for like, I don't know, 6, 7 people could sit in them. So some
Yeah.
are tall, like 8, 10 feet. Some are just,
Well, the cool thing is they're corbelled construction. There's no cement, there's no nothing that's been used on them, and they're waterproof. Water
that's really
doesn't
weird.
seep into them. It's really phenomenal.
That is really
Yeah.
fascinating.
In Manitou, Maver and Dix suggested some of these chambers were aligned to the horizon, and the
Yeah.
hill 5 miles, in front of you, or in front of the doorway, was where, the summer solstice sun, rose or set, or,
Yeah.
there was a celestial sighting, but that was where, the shaman of the community sat and said, "Oh, okay, well, the celestial thing happened this evening, so okay, we're into this season now." So that was kind of like where, just like it was, holy moment, and special pronouncements were made from the observations from that site.
That's certainly one of the suggestions that's been made. But another thing that they have, not all of them are oriented that way, but a great many of them are. And the other thing that fascinated me, and I wanted to take a shovel once, but Patrick wouldn't let me. There are magnetic anomalies in the entrance of a lot of them, and there have never been any artifacts found in or around them. There's no smoke evidence inside, so fires were not lit because there's no ventilation. So I've often thought that they were used for communication, because most of them are granite that has a great deal of crystal in it, or they're portals of some sort.
Communication, Barbara, to what do you think?
I think they're interdimensional.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just me, but
Yeah.
I couldn't think of any other reason for them. There are a lot of them they're clustered in many cases. They aren't really isolate. They're clustered, and in the almost 200 that we saw, they all had great commonality as far as the energy, as far as the feeling, like in a crop circle, ozone. You could almost smell the ozone, and the magnetic anomalies. I never, and all I wanted to do was dig a little, but apparently it's not allowed.
Barbara, nobody wants anyone to figure anything out. Don't touch it. Just look at it and imagine.
You can't, and don't ask questions.
Well, see,
Don't ask
and
questions. Just
the
look
other,
and don't ask questions.
No.
the thing that we
No,
were
for sure,
working,
don't ask questions.
what we were working on when Patrick died was to get some sort of governmental perk if it was on your property, you didn't pay property tax or something like that, because people have used them to keep their garbage in, to use them as places to dump stuff.
Not positive.
It's horrifying. Some people tore them apart for their patios because the stones were so cool. So they're slowly disappearing.
It's pretty awful.
It's so sad. It's just like it's history just being wiped away before our eyes. It's so sad. And I've seen documentaries recently about, well, just like the bells, all over the world, all the bell towers, all the bells being taken down throughout the centuries. Like it's no different.
Well, the cool
Why?
thing, the cool thing. Well, I can give you one suggestion. The bells tolling dispel negative energy.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as wind chimes, but the bell towers, the bells do dispel negative energy, so that if you get rid of the negative energy, then people are more easily to be controlled.
That's why churches have bells.
Yeah. And that's why they melted them down. That's why they melted. We talked about this with energy frequency crystal healer Aaron Coop show recently, but that's exactly, we brought it up, how many bells they took down out of Europe, and it's it's right in our face. They just did it right in our face.
If you get rid of things like that, the atmosphere, the energy of the people gets more and more negative, and they're easier to manipulate.
Yeah. and
And
those bells rang.
also, just for next time you go down to where all those big snakes are and everything, take wind chimes, because wind chimes repel poisonous snakes.
Does it attract good
Who
snakes?
needs a knife? I'll carry a wind chime.
I can see with a few more crystals and a couple wind chimes, and pretty soon she looks like a
Good to go.
mobile Mary. Yeah, she'll look like a mobile Mary Poppins.
Good to go.
Kincaide.
I'll carry the Mary Poppins bag.
Well, that, and you can have an umbrella with crystals and wind chime hanging from it.
They'll scare the cats away.
It'll be
Oh,
really good.
Celeste's got to scare the cats away.
Yeah, that and you'll be protect yourself from that equator sun. So yeah, umbrella with wind chimes and crystals.
Just curious, have you guys ever spoken to Dr. Sam Osmanagic?
Osmanagich?
Yep,
I-
the
you know,
Bosnian pyramids.
this killed me. I followed everything he did and talked a little bit about it in my book, but at the same time, he's very good friends with Michael Tellinger. And I was there and they said, Sam is coming. We're going to be doing a tour 1.5 weeks after I left.
Ah.
And I was invited to stay to meet him in person. So no.
I've had him on my show a couple times, and he's the kind of author that you fall in love with, because after you introduce him,
Yeah.
you can bake cookies, take a bath, and fold laundry, because he
You don't have
asks.
to talk.
He'll say, and Barbara, you would ask me, and he'd say, and then he'd say, and I would answer, and it was sort of like so much for research, you know.
Yeah. No, Sam, I'm sure Sam is like the Bosnian pyramid situation, and it's so interesting. I've tracked that for years. I met his, actually, prior to our first Belizean expedition, Kristi, I don't think I've even told you this, but Brock, his American associate, that basically, so Sam's uncovering this Bosnian pyramid system, right? And he had an American counterpart that kind of just tracked and videographed everything that was going on. This guy was
Yeah.
named Brock, and 3 of the people that came with us on the first expedition, one of them was friends with Brock. So we had a big Zoom meeting. I had all these different people interested in coming with me to do what we were doing. And Brock, so ironically, I had this opportunity to meet Sam, and I could not figure out and work out how I could I could not stay in South Africa for 2 months, but I really wanted to stay to hang out with Sam. But Brock is his kind of one of his right-hand guys. And so we did end up having a meeting, and he did consider coming with us on the first expedition. And so that was one of those things where I'm like, I'm this close to Sam, and Brock will do, because pretty much everything I learned about the Bosnian pyramid about Sam was through Brock. So, hey, let's have Brock go. But that's as far as I got, Barbara.
Well, he used sound at the top of the pyramid, and they sent the sound frequency into the pyramid, and the pyramid answered. And that, and the glyphs that they found on one of the stones, when they interpreted them, it was mind-boggling. It spoke of being safe, having sealed the tunnels up, and waiting for the Stargate to open.
Yeah.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
So you're saying that. So
What?
you're saying that if we want to talk to Sam, you're saying, Barbara, can you connect us with Sam?
I know somebody who knows him really well. It would be
I would love to have a conversation with him.
oh, you
We're
don't
talking
you
about
don't have
opening-
you don't have
Yeah.
a conversation.
Oh,
You
no.
say hello and he starts talking.
And that's it.
Yeah.
We just absorb.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just absorb.
Yeah.
We absorb.
We-
I'm a
Mark-
sponge. I'm good with it.
Mark, who is it that does the pyramid conference? That's not Paola, is it? It's
Marta Thomas.
It's Marta Thomas. Marta Thomas has him at several of her conferences. So the pyramid conferences, and Marta's wonderful. She'll probably eat your stuff up and get Dr. Sam back, because he's been to many of her conferences.
Where does
I
she
had-
do her conferences? I mean, maybe that's
And-
something Kristi and I should do.
She's out of
Chicago.
Chicago.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. So if that's someone to talk to, Barb.
I'll
let us
send you her email.
Yeah, we would
Thank
love to. We want to start doing in person. We want to start doing talks in person. So that's something I think, yeah, I
Uh,
can shut up, Kristi. You can
a
cover.
pyramid conference would be a nice place to start.
Well, we could talk, because part of it has to do with, again, consciousness and connecting to
Yeah.
ourselves. So there's never just a technical or a historical side. We're using these giant structures. We're there as part of this energy grid and part of some
Yeah.
sort of system. So we can speak to that.
Yeah. So, Barbara, I just have to ask you, when you say the pyramid answered,
Yeah.
how
There was
did
a pause. There was a pause after they actually sent it up, but the answer came from beneath, and it repeated the pattern. Yeah. Oh, it's a cool place to go. If you've not read his book, and I don't know if I don't know if it's still available or not, but among other things, they found that working in the tunnels cured arthritis, cured sinus stuff, cured. I mean, I'm not sure it cured cancer, but he came real close to saying it did. But people could volunteer and go and help to dig, and their physical difficulties were greatly decreased because of it.
Now they tried to Kristi. They tried to tell that the general geologists have tried to say that it's not actually a pyramid, but I'm going to do my
Oh,
best. Let's see. Let's see if I can.
yeah.
that's a pyramid?
Oh, yeah.
No, they said that is
There's a
pyramid.
tunnel.
But he's working on the tunnels, and the other cool part was they would find these boulders in certain places in the tunnels, and when they moved one of the boulders, the tunnel flooded, so they put it back, and the tunnel drained, and it's amazing. But they were working primarily in the tunnels because they couldn't get into the pyramid because it wasn't on the property they had permission to play with. But they found a lot of fascinating stuff there. I've done the interviews I've done are on the YouTube channel on our the YouTube channel for the show, and he's just a wonderful person to listen to. There's no talking to him.
Yeah, and there were the spheres in the village as well. They
Yeah.
they weren't all in just the tunnel. They were in
Yeah,
the
they seem to be over running water.
Yeah, those spheres that are found in Costa Rica, Kristi, those giant, they have hollow centers. Bosnia, they have there's a great picture. They found all different sizes of the spheres, but one of the spheres was put to over. It was 64 tons, give or take. One of the spheres. So they're small and big, but they're odd because they seem to be frequency energy related, and they're all over the earth. And Bosnia has a ton of them around that pyramid.
Yeah, they do.
Barbara, what are your thoughts on what all of this is? Just between connecting energy and frequency and ley lines and pyramids answering back when you send certain codes, and just interdimensional beings and all of it. What are your thoughts on consciousness and connecting human history? And is that too much to ask in one question?
Yeah. I do believe that the Earth plane has the remnants of civilizations that are pre-diluvian, that that we don't even understand so much of it, and that's why we were so distressed that the chambers were being destroyed. The resonance, the frequency that those aspects and areas have at one point, I do believe created a grid around the planet that was quite profound. Now, I don't think that grid is in there. Yeah, I think the grid has been destroyed.
Right.
But there are a lot of times with a lot of the megaliths in England, they will find that they can hit certain of them and the sound will continue on not only around the circle, but to other circles who are near, so that they aren't just stones sitting there. They have a purpose. I mean, these people needed to hunt and so they could eat and live. They were not trying to, create things that you could, use stones for. I think they predate the ancient cultures that they're attributed to, especially Stonehenge definitely is not.
Yeah, Maria argued that Stonehenge was basically a hospital.
Yeah, I
Well,
would go for that.
the thing is that what's frustrating about that is I did a documentary. I didn't totally address Stonehenge. What's frustrating is that it's a contemporary archaeological recreation. They built it back into something they thought it should look like. The thing that I think is really interesting about Stonehenge, though, is that core sample that was taken in the 50s that was found in Texas that showed that the silostones that they're complete silicrete. So you're talking about a substance that, like, why you would go and build the original, like what's been weathered. So not only is it their size, but the complexity of the construction, the way they megalithic, they have the nubs and the way they fit together. But those stones, those silicretes, are indestructible.
Yeah.
They're made out of something that, again, if you were doing computing, crystal frequency, energy, anything to do with higher information, that silicrete structure of each one of those ones that are silicrete were definitely put together. By the way, extremely hard. It's not like you're cutting this or polishing it with bronze or some simple tool. If you're going to work in silicrete, you have to have some really advanced tooling to be able to make that work and for it to be as weathered as it is. Is it not just pre-diluvian by 12,000 years? Is it 100,000? Is it 200,000? Is it 500,000? Is it older? But those stones and what we're seeing in their configuration as a henge is not maybe their original constructions. They could have been turned into that for maybe 10,000 years, but not for 100,000 years, not for a million
Well,
years ago.
I think they were also an energy center that,
Yeah.
when in place. Because if you look at the structures that the Nazis had that they were using for weightlessness, it's same type of circular construction, so that there was energy that was coming from it that may I don't know. I have no
Like
idea.
anti-gravity almost.
Like who?
Like anti-gravity, when you say
Yeah,
weightlessness,
it's
it would be.
anti-gravity.
So I think that Dr. Stephen, not Greer, Bob Lazar, he talks about that in his Area 51 documentary, where he talks about a weightless propulsion system, like the propulsion system. There was no propulsion system.
Right,
That it was just almost
anti-gravity. Yeah.
anti-gravity. It was
Yeah.
weightless.
And that was how Geoffrey of Monmouth depicted the building of Stonehenge with the Merlin levitating the stones into place.
Mm-hmm. So when I was in Peru studying breath work, I visited Sacsayhuaman, and they said that the tour guide, that was his explanation of how those stones were put into place was sound frequency, that they matched the sound frequency with the density in the stone, and it became weightless, and they were able to lift and move the stones and place them in those, I don't know, but I have seen plenty of evidence of sound moving stone. I've not seen sound moving megalithic stone, but I have seen sound moving small stones.
Well, that's how that castle in Florida was built by the man.
Coral Castle.
Thank you. The Coral Castle. He used sound, and he did that entire structure by himself. And he took the secret to his death.
In Maria's new book, she focuses on the harmonics of Stonehenge, and they were picked up because the people were anatomically different. It was like their ears or like back a little farther.
Well,
and
so I think that has a lot to do with the way we breathe too. because back when we were more nose breathers and less mouth breathers, it changes the way that we breathe, changes our face shape. So if you look at, centuries past, our face shape was different, where we shouldn't have to have braces or orthodontics or anything like that. Our teeth should
Wisdom teeth
naturally come in straight.
extracted.
Right. We shouldn't have we shouldn't have to have that. But because of the way that we breathe now, it changes. It has over the years, centuries, decades, whatever, it has changed the way that our face is structured. And so that would make sense that their ears would be located at a different place on their face because they probably breathed a lot differently than we did. They probably had practices that we're just now learning to practice.
Well, and even getting back to the harmonics, take it back to the Bible and and Jericho. They marched around the city 7 times, and then they blew the ram's horns, and they got the frequency to the place where the walls crumbled.
Mhm.
So you could crumble them or build with them, probably.
Well, the storytelling is there. There's something in our psyche about it. It's a reality. You can watch the YouTube videos of the Russians using sound frequencies to use copper to drill perfect holes in stone or
Oh
to
yeah.
levitate, all that stuff. And Coral Castle, you brought it up. I mean, I was there. It's pretty fascinating, the size and the structure itself, but what people are using either in current times or what technologies we're reinventing, it seems to be stuck in our very core. It seems to be stuck in our very genetics.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. I think that
Yeah.
I think that even now more than ever, I feel like there's this just shift. I don't know if maybe Barbara, you can feel it too, but there's just this energetic shift. I feel like that's happening on the planet where there's just a
Oh
lot
yeah.
more people waking up and asking questions and saying, hey, this doesn't, these pieces don't really fit together.
Well, I think the capacity of the human has always been far greater than
Mm.
we utilized, and I think we're coming to a time frame where people are getting closer to that portal to be able to tap into the divine, to be able to utilize that energy, and everybody will use it differently. But it seems to me that there certainly are those that can levitate, those that can bilocate, those that can walk on water. It's there. Yeah, we're
Hey, Mark.
capable. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to go away.
No, don't go. I'm so sorry. I wanted Mark's opinion. I just wanted Mark's opinion
It's
on.
Mark's show. I'm going to.
No,
Okay,
no,
afterwards,
you can
Barbara,
stay.
afterwards. All right.
Well, it's
I
your
think it's
network. It's not like I can tell you, get out of here.
Well, you have to earn your money somehow, Mark.
all of it. Mark, all I was going to ask was, what was your thought on, Kristi had that question to Barbara about what do you think I was going to just to kind of modify it a little bit, but what do you think about pre-Diluvian, or what do you think about, do you think there's like an origin, or do you have an idea how far, everyone you've interviewed, what do you think about pre-Diluvian history? What do you think of some of the stories and how far back we might go?
It seems like something was going on at. Okay, you just take a look at Göbekli Tepe, going way back at uh at Atlantis, Mu, whatever ancient culture, but maybe Göbekli Tepe might be one of the best examples of an advanced culture, and we forgot about it over the generations. People may have heard about it, but it was deliberately buried.
I was going to ask you, do you feel like we forgot about it, Mark, or do you
Yeah,
feel like it was
yeah,
intentionally covered up?
Yeah, no, no, that's a fact that it was deliberately covered up for whatever reason. The locals didn't want um, invaders to find the sacred site, but it just seems like there's always been, you know, later people always want to keep going back to um, rediscovering, you know, Eden or Stonehenge. You know, it's something out of the past. You know, and that concept was uh, covered in 1984. And you know, if you were alive, um, you know, prior to the revolution, you're a threat because you have that memory. And you know, they, you know, are you know, doing the speak right, and you know, Winston's doing all that stuff to change history to make Big Brother look like he was always correct in his um, social engineering. But you know, Winston was always a threat because he remembered a better time before Big Brother, and I think that's one of the interesting things about that book is, you know, Orwell is, you know, bringing up what we're talking about. You know, just what was there's something about the past that always attracts us. You know, the you know, advanced civilization or the high tech stuff that they had. The was it the um carvings at Pumapunku? Like how they do that? You know, it's you know, just sit there like um wrong rock. Like sit there with the, you know, rock, you know, carving into another rock. It's too exact. Um, yeah,
Like a
yeah,
lathe machine.
yeah. You know, is there
Like
what?
it was cut with a laser.
You know, and you can get that with some of the um, Egyptian um, statues. You get some of the, you know, pharaohs that are seated, and yeah, these are like Mount Rushmore kind of faces on the statues, and uh, you know, I've seen a lecture Chris Dunn um, gave at the Serpent Mound, where you know, he- in his um, engine examples of the high tech engineering that was, he argues, that was there in ancient Egypt. You know, there's a line down one of the faces, and you know, he's measuring out from the center of the nose to you know, like the where the your jaw and ear bone are. Like they're
And it's perfectly
yeah,
symmetrical.
yeah.
Right.
And it's like, you know, most of us today are, you know, it's going to be a lopsided face if we,
Right.
you know, our drawing skills don't even match um, what the ancients did. So, you know, we're always going. Uh, I I agree with what both of you have said throughout tonight's show. You know, there was something that the ancients knew that was forgotten, and we're just rediscovering it now. And one of the notes I had to myself, Jared really, just mentioned it just briefly, but you get the Terra Preta is now confirmed a man-made. The viewers can see that right there on page 14. It's a man-made product. So how come
Yes.
why don't we have better
Food.
soils today?
Why don't we have better food? If
Yeah.
we can engineer soil like Terra Preta, why
Well,
don't we have better food? Why
we've
aren't we eating better?
we've engineered food that gives you cancer, makes you really sick.
Yet there's soil all around the world that could probably heal and do just the opposite.
Yeah, I've seen the soil. I don't want to get into uh, recent geopolitical things, but about an hour or so north of me, you can still see where a cleanup was done of contaminated soil, still there. But it drifted past my house out here a couple years ago. So how much is contaminated along the banks?
Mm-hmm.
But we engineer crap like that, but not good things like what Jared's arguing about the Terra Preta.
Well, just like you said, you don't want to get into the geopolitical side of things, or biopolitical side of things, but there's no money in well people.
Mhm.
So we'll just leave it at that.
Mhm.
If you're well, there's no money.
Yeah, to be
If
made
you're
from you.
healthy, there's no money.
Mhm.
So why would we engineer healthy soil if it's going to heal people?
That was the different mindset that the ancients had.
Mm-hmm.
Just I don't know. We're getting kind of close to the 2 hour. I don't want to have to run into uh, the living room and get Maria's book. You just have to have her on your show to explain. But I think they were very much the ancients were very much aware of um, um, the uh, acoustic properties of so many of the um, stone circles, and that's why the Swiss um, archer was found at Stonehenge that had like a club foot. Is that right? Have you heard that? Okay.
I haven't. Mm-mm.
That's What did he hobble there from what's now Switzerland to be healed?
Ooh,
Yeah, I think
that's an
Maria's
interesting
covered.
thought.
You know, um, well, it's like 35 years ago. I don't know if I get, um, I think Maria's doing tours. I'm gonna have to, I'll send her the archiving. We need to get her on to talk about her book, but she'd be perfect for your show. She can go into more detail. I just don't want to rush into the other room and flip through her book while we're doing a show. But
Okay.
um, or going, uh, but yeah, uh, is very much aware of the uh, um, numerous burials in in the Stonehenge area, and yeah, I think she argues to make a very good case about quite a few um, unusual properties that um, not that many people are aware of, but she with her uh, ability to get access to uh, some of the museums, I think she's um, made some very interesting cases that um, we need to reevaluate the um, purpose of some of these sites.
Definitely.
Yeah, this has been a good time, Mark.
It
hmm
has.
It's getting pretty close to needing to wrap this up. We're we'll have to do this again sometime soon. But how about you're going to be doing some other appearances on other shows soon. If they can't get enough of you two, in between all those shows, uh, you know, w- uh, you, give everyone your website and any of your contact information you want to give out, and we'll call it an evening.
Yes. So the website's archeox.com, just like it's spelled on the screen here. It's rkeox.com. And it's got a list of our past podcast. And then we'll have a list of our upcoming shows on soon. And then there is some information about Belize on there. And there will be more details about that coming up soon as well. And then Peru and Egypt, as we work those out, will be on the website as well too. And then our contact information is also website.
And upcoming shows, yeah, we have we're gonna be, I think, live with Jimmy Church on Friday and tomorrow
Thursday.
night. Oh, sorry, apologies, Thursday. And then of
Thursday.
course we're live. Kristi and I have our show Wednesday night at 8 Central, and we will be on to chat more every week on rqx.com. You can watch us there, and we'll be eventually streaming on podcast catchers everywhere. But for now, come to rqx.com and listen to our show live or recorded because we put them on the website also.
Okay. Well, this was a really fantastic show tonight. I'm glad we were able to arrange this, and Barbara popped off for a little bit. She had a lot of interesting information. So, um, I think you know, now that we have viewers, I think they're really going to like this show, and um, looking forward to developing this new visual platform even more. But yeah, let's kind of wrap there, and we will talk to everyone sometime soon. Thanks again,
Sounds great.
everyone.